Here is a list of medical bills my health provider Cigna doesn't cover. I am single and my premium is now $260 or something like that monthly, and it's gone up to $330. Aside from this, I pay another $50 plus towards dental. The reply I usually get by people is, mine is much more, as if I am supposed to feel bad for mentioning it. Chances are you're thinking the same thing. I get it. There is this meme circulating social media showing early Americans engaged in a war for some minute percentage of taxes. Meanwhile, today, we're bent over in compliance. Two separate things, but still the one thing that connects is the continued gouging of average people. Average people who voted for a billionaire who took lessons from a mob lawyer who evicted average New Yorkers to fulfill his dream of being the top real estate mogul of New York. Scratch that, the world, who in his first presidency cut tax for the rich, and by now most of you are hearing blah, 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 as if you know this already. Well, he's back, Jack. Thanks to the silent majority. I could spend the rest of this video on how not only the leaders of America, but a large section of Europe has turned their back on average people to fend for themselves. Drink some coffee. Like the rest of creation. I mean, there aren't too many new deals in the animal kingdom, last time I checked. To the neocons, this makes perfect sense, but I am not treading that path for now. Let this video be a reflection, not a reaction. When 9/11 happened, the president did not reflect. George W. Bush did not make a televised announcement to the bewildered masses to console and urge people to reflect and to spend time with those close by to check on their mental state as a nation, and indeed the world, as we try piecing this shit puzzle together. And still today, with many pieces of said shit puzzle remains missing. He made speeches of revenge, and he urged you to spend money. Psst, it's the economy, stupid.
As we work with Congress in the coming year to chart a new course in Iraq and strengthen our military to meet the challenges of the 21st century, we must also work together to achieve important goals for the American people here at home. This work begins with keeping our economy growing. And I encourage you all to go shopping more. During these last few months, I've been trained by Al-Qaeda, and I'm weak and materialistic. I told our country and I told the world, if it feels good, do it.
He did mention prayers, though. When the pandemic hit the world, the president, and soon-to-be, again, president, blamed China, as did his followers. After picking up the pieces of both disasters, more billionaires popped up like weeds. And after the pandemic, more people are experiencing increased healthcare costs. Meanwhile, our technology has made the major healthcare corporations' life easier. Algorithms can replace mouths to feed that run by all the claims. And so now, a heartless and cold machine does this.
When health insurance companies deny claims, an appeal is not very likely. Federal data shows that companies issued more than 49 million denials in 2021, but Rogan explores how at least one major health insurance company is using artificial intelligence to assess and often deny claims in bulk.
Investigative journalists at the nonprofit ProPublica found that the health insurance company Cigna uses an automated system that allows it to instantly reject claims on medical grounds without even opening the customer's file. Some are accusing Cigna of using the system to help cut costs at the expense of the patients, a claim which Cigna denies.
Cold, like the very heart of corporatized America. A psychologist went as far to compare the character traits of a psychopath to corporations.
One of the questions that comes up periodically is to what extent could a corporation be considered to be psychopathic? And if we look at a corporation as a legal person, that it may not be that difficult to actually draw the transition between psychopathy in the individual to psychopathy in a corporation. We can go through the characteristics that define this particular disorder one by one and see how they might apply to corporations. they would have all the characteristics. And in fact, in many respects, a corporation of that sort is a prototypical psychopath.
It's PsychoCorp, coming to a theater near you. The resemblance is striking. Investors are involved, big-time investors. Now, our entire health system is being led by them. Hey, Mac, come here. It's the economy, stupid. A wife was denied the machines to keep her breathing. She died of complications from Lou Gehrig's disease. Another patient that was billed $40,000 as her health care wouldn't cover the cost. By the way, have you noticed the hyperactive amounts of ads flooding the internet landscape like those weeds? This is an outrage. It is, but let's focus on the coverage denials. I guess we can take a page from Howard Beale's playbook.
So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Then Brian Thompson was killed. The United's healthcare CEO was killed in cold blood by 26-year-old suspect Luigi Nicholas Mangione. And by now, there are plenty of shows circulating on social media.
Paul, what's going on in New York? We were just talking about it. That CEO got whacked.
Oh my God, dude.
You know what's funny? I was sitting there reading an article, guy. They go, "Oh my God, he's such a great guy. He had a wife and kids, and he's such a great guy." And then you find out he and the other guys he's working for are getting sued for $121 million for dumping a stock.
The businessman was on his way to an investors meeting. Police sources told the New York Post that the words "deny, depose, and defend" were written on the live rounds and casings left behind by the assassin after the shooting. Each bullet and casing had just one word written on it. A manifesto appears.
To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggly notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No, the reality is these have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed. Example, Rosenthal, Moore, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games are at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty.
I don't align with this following take because it reinforces the outrage a lot of outlets are expressing toward our so-called trusted media.
The discrepancy between what the United States spends on healthcare and where it ranks in life expectancy is glaring, but it was not always thus. In 1980, according to the Peterson KFF Health System Tracker, American life expectancy was only 0.8 years less than the average of comparable countries. By 1995, the gap was 2 years, and by 2013, 3 years. In 2019, it was just under 4 years. During this 4-decade period, American life expectancy increased by 5.4 77.5 years to reach 78.8, largely stagnating in 2010, while it increased by about 8 years in the comparable countries. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, the gap widened to 5 years, as American life expectancy sharply dropped by nearly 2 years. Another dip in 2021 made the gap 5.8 years, but the United States partially rebounded in 2022, the last year of tracker data, with a life expectancy of 77.5, trailing the other countries by 4.7 years and about a year and a half lower than its peak in 2014. But how are lagging life expectancy gains in America over the last 44 years primarily the fault of United Healthcare, let alone the person who served as its CEO since 2021? A 2021 study produced by the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine found that the 4 largest contributors to the growth of the U.S. peer country mortality gap between 2020 and 2015 were circulatory diseases.
The devil's in the details here, okay? It's obvious the killer wasn't completely all there. Hey, what if you are out, like, killing CEOs, scumbags, Sorry, where was I? But as for the trenchant way our healthcare system treats us, is being addressed more or less is in the manifesto. Deny, depose, and defend our playbook for most, if not all, insurance companies. It's the economy. All right already. There has been a call for a more philosophical basis type of healthcare. But if it costs the system more, then most likely any humanitarian approach is ignored. But what if we can prove it won't in a specific case study with charts and everything? Sorry, we just can't take that chance. It's the military-industrial complex. Our economy, stupid.
Soon after the shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, came the somewhat unexpected, a flood of social media posts like these.
I vividly remember being on the phone with United Healthcare for days and days, 9 months pregnant, about to give birth alone.
It was a terrible, stressful, mad scramble. We appealed, of course, to United Healthcare, and they denied the appeal within 1 day.
You were wondering. I'm just saying, my thoughts and prayers were also denied. I don't give a
Thompson's death has not only opened the door for people to share their pain about how they say they were unfairly treated by United Healthcare, it has also unleashed a torrent of vitriol against the entire healthcare industry. Ex-posts like this are some of the tamer versions of what's out there. Today, we mourn the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, gunned down. Today, we mourn the deaths of the 68,000 Americans who needlessly die each year so that insurance company execs like Brian Thompson can become multimillionaires. Then there's United Healthcare Group's Facebook posts about Thompson, who was a husband and father of 2. It reads in part, "We are deeply saddened and shocked at the passing of our dear friend and colleague Brian Thompson. Brian was a highly respected colleague and friend to all who worked with him." So far, that statement has received more than 90,000 laugh emojis. No laughing matter to security experts like Philip Klein.
There's now a widow and 2 orphan children out there. They don't have a father now. And we all need to remember that.
There's a frustration. Unfortunately, sympathy requires a prior authorization, and I have to deny that request.
As frustrations simmer online with dark comments such as, "May the shooter never be found. My thoughts and deductibles go to the family," a new Gallup poll found just 44% of adults say the quality of U.S. healthcare is excellent or good, the smallest share since Gallup's tracking started in 2001. So we've heard some shocking comments there. Also, comments clearly from people who are frustrated. The security expert that you heard from in the piece just wanted to make it clear that much of this backlash, many of these comments, he says, are insensitive and downright irresponsible. Now, we also had reached out to United Healthcare to get more of their perspective on what's happening here. They did not get back to us, but CNN has learned the company has increased its security measures at facilities around the country.
Okay, now here's my observation. The stage is set. Let's zoom out and scan the psychological terrain of late. The life of a president was threatened 3 times.
Wait. What? What? Again.
That hasn't happened since. Wait, it never did happen. But this happened. Our movies and games have been anticipating our current pathological state. Consider the Joker, mad clown disease. Like the bovine epidemic, it takes over, causing disruption and chaos, turning the victim into a copy of Joker. Well, okay, people infected with mad cow don't begin slowly grazing the lawn for hours, but you get the idea. I think our meme-saturated social media serves as a cultural genetic playground for a Darwin on steroids future. The survival of the fittest, but only it is more like the survival of the strangest. When the going gets weird, the Weird Term Pro just got an upgrade. And this is supposed to be fiction. And so our nation is mutating into Gotham City. The political infrastructure has weakened. Like the 1920s, an undercurrent of ghouls appears like cannibalistic human underground dwellers. As people are callous towards one another and growing stranger by the hour, and our leaders are mutants. Can it be genetic or epigenetic? Most likely, it's the torment of our time, and with the public divided to condemn or cheer them on. Luigi Mangione comes right out of the Marvel Universe as some kind of villain. Rich background, Ivy League school tech genius with an axe to grind. He makes his own weapons with a 3D printer. The only thing missing is his costume. Art imitates life. Life imitates art. Which is it? Whatever the case, we are in the midst of something that's becoming more apparent. The tipping point. Psychological observations. Thanatos.
One other thing that Freud also noticed was that some people get into these patterns of behavior that appear to be self-destructive or harmful to others. And he started to think about this as the death drive. And this also comes with some associated emotions. And these include things like fear, anger, hate. And these can be directed both inward at oneself or outward towards other people. And this death drive also has a name. And this death drive is commonly called Thanatos. And these two drives, as you can tell, are the opposites of each other. Now, one thing we have to understand about drives is that he said that drives are these intrinsic, universal impulses and feelings that we all have. And these are drives that naturally come about. We don't need something from outside to shift us into having this life drive or this death drive. These are things that naturally develop in humans. And this is something that Freud had outlined.
Maybe we should take a lesson from the past. A century ago seems like an eternity for most of us distracted, surviving individuals. But are we really that different after all? When things got to a certain tipping point, all hell would break loose. I mean, what gave birth to the United States? Now, again, the reasons for that are too varied to get into here. But if it weren't for a substantial number of angry people, maybe we would be drinking tea instead of coffee. The leaders who managed to gain popularity during such times are expressions of the milieu. Our milieu being the jungle empire of Homo sapiens. Hitler, Franco, Lenin, Stalin are, for me, products of our environment. An environment which runs on psychic energy, during which Sigmund Freud developed his Thanatos idea. The things that spawned both world wars are too involved for this video, but the formula for rebellion are hardship for the masses, plus opulence of the few. You think we would have figured this out by now. Are we so very different? I mean, when the certain tipping point, are we very different? I mean, when that certain tipping point is reached.
Tonight, the United States of America is unravelling for all the world to see as race riots leave many of the nation's biggest cities burning in almost unimaginable scenes. Across the country, police are in the line of fire, facing the rage of protesters following the death of a black man at the hands of officers. The wave of violence has now washed across 29 cities, from New York, Los Angeles, New Orleans, Seattle, and Minneapolis.
Morning. Going to try and get compliance, but this is now effectively a riot.
49 hours declaring it a riot.
Cruiser 5 to 50 be advised, Capitol Police 1 advised they're trying to breach and get into the Capitol.
They were peaceful people. These were great people. The crowd was unbelievable. And I mentioned the word love, the love in the air. I've never seen anything like it.
But this is only a reflection of sorts. I can make part 2 showcasing nonviolent solutions, mostly ignored by the establishment. But for now, the best we can do is stay calm. Stay calm.